Okay, so all right, so we've got this idea of one of the ways that leaders can kind of make, where good leaders can go wrong is they may not be transparent or as consistent. They may that's kind of one of those missteps. Any other kind of highlights that you would spell out, the things that you've seen recently that you brought into the book that are some of those things that leaders just they make those steps and boy, it costs them.
I'd say one of the key areas still, Brandon, is performance management. Some companies are still stuck on an annual performance management process, and it's so passé, it's so old school. How can you give me one performance review for a year, which mostly in many cases is based on what my actual objectives were, right? I don't need a manager. I don't need a leader to tell me whether or not I hit my sales number, my revenue number, my profit number, my expense number. I can do that pretty much on my own, right? Either I hit my goal or I didn't. But we spend hours and hours and hours documenting this stuff with very little advice. And one of the big criticisms I have of the whole process is, and particularly now, it's even more important. Managers are judging people and they have no idea how they're managing, right? So in one of my jobs, I was remote and my manager was not anywhere near me. And he never came to one of my staff meetings. He never came to one of my sessions one-on-one with one of my employees. He never came to exhibits where I stood up with the rest of the sales force and talked to customers, right? And everything was sort of, critique and evaluation remotely. Right? Part of the problem managers are getting into is they're not being mentored and they're not being coached and counseled. That manager had no idea whether or not I was abusing my people, or if I was an SOB in the office, or if I was coming in at 10 o'clock and leaving at 2 o'clock. He never interacted with me. And it's not a criticism to him. We were in a different part of the world. But how can you judge me just based on a few metrics when you aren't spending time with me evaluating how I'm interacting? And that's where a huge breakdown is occurring, because managers are able to be lousy, right? They can perform, but we're not, as leaders, we're not, in tune to what's happening really with the people we're evaluating, and it's really crazy.
Welding together practical insights and powerful conversations to forge world-class leaders. This is the Leadership Foundry podcast.